It was a warm spring day when Laura and I first met our new neighbor, Tom. He had just moved into the house next door, and Laura, being the friendly person she was, insisted we go over to introduce ourselves. We walked over with a bottle of wine as a welcome gift. Tom greeted us with a warm smile and invited us inside. He was in his late 30s, tall, with an athletic build and an easygoing charm that made him instantly likable. As the weeks went by, Tom became a regular presence in our lives. He would often join us for barbecues and get-togethers, and it wasn't long before he and Laura developed a friendly rapport. I didn't mind at first. It was nice to have a friendly neighbor. Laura and I had been married for 5 years, and though our relationship was solid, the routine of daily life had made things a bit mundane. One Saturday afternoon, while I was working in the garden, I noticed Laura and Tom chatting animatedly by the fence. They were laughing and seemed to be enjoying each other's company. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but the sight of them together sparked a tiny flicker of jealousy in me. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just friendly banter. As time went on, Laura started spending more and more time with Tom. She would often head over to his place for coffee or a chat while I was at work. She mentioned that he was going through a tough time and needed someone to talk to. I tried to be understanding, but it wasn't easy. The flicker of jealousy grew into a nagging suspicion that I couldn't shake off. One evening, I came home from work earlier than usual. I walked into the house and called out for Laura, but there was no response. I noticed that her car was still in the driveway, so I assumed she must be next door. I decided to surprise her, so I walked over to Tom's house and knocked on the door. Tom answered, looking slightly flustered. "Hey, Alex," he said, forcing a smile. "What's up?" "Is Laura here?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, she's inside. Come on in," he said, stepping aside to let me in. I walked into the living room and found Laura sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee. She looked up, surprised to see me. "Alex, what are you doing home so early?" "I finished work early," I replied, trying to read her expression. "Thought I'd come by and see what you guys were up to." "We were just having coffee," Tom interjected. "Want to join us?" "Sure," I said, sitting down next to Laura. As we chatted, I couldn't help but feel like there was an undercurrent of tension in the room. Laura seemed distracted, and Tom was unusually quiet. I tried to push the thought aside, but it lingered in the back of my mind. Later that night, as Laura and I were getting ready for bed, I decided to bring it up. "You and Tom seem to be spending a lot of time together," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "He's going through a rough patch," she replied, avoiding my gaze. "I'm just being a friend." "I know," I said, feeling a pang of guilt for doubting her. "I just miss spending time with you." She smiled, leaning in to kiss me. "I miss you too, Alex. Let's plan a weekend getaway, just the two of us." Her suggestion made me feel better, and we spent the next few days planning our trip. It felt good to focus on us again, and for a while my suspicions faded into the background. But as the day of our trip approached, something happened that brought all my doubts rushing back. It was a Friday evening, and I was packing our bags for the weekend when I noticed that Laura's phone was constantly buzzing with messages. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Tom. "I miss you. Can't wait to see you again." My heart sank. I didn't know what to think or how to react. I felt a surge of anger, confusion, and betrayal. I decided to confront Laura. She was in the shower, so I waited until she came out. "Laura, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. She looked at me, concerned. "What is it, Alex?" "I saw a message on your phone, from Tom," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "He said he misses you." Laura's face went pale. She sat down on the bed, her hands shaking. "Alex, I didn't mean for this to happen, it just did." "Didn't mean for what to happen?" I demanded, my anger boiling over. "Are you having an affair with him?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, but it wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't want to hurt you." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had betrayed me. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "About 3 months," she admitted, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I never wanted to hurt you." I couldn't stay in the room any longer. I grabbed my keys and left the house, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I drove around aimlessly, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I felt angry, hurt, and utterly betrayed. How could she do this to me? To us? I ended up at a park, sitting on a bench, staring into the darkness. I didn't know what to do or where to go from here. The life I thought I knew had crumbled in an instant. All I knew was that nothing would ever be the same again. The night I discovered Laura's betrayal was one of the longest nights of my life. I sat on that park bench for hours, trying to process everything. My mind raced with questions and scenarios, each more painful than the last. How could I have been so blind? How could Laura do this to me, to our marriage? When I finally returned home, it was past midnight. The house was dark, and Laura was asleep, VDJ, or at least pretending to be. I didn't have the energy to confront her again, so I went to the guest room and tried to sleep. But sleep wouldn't come. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the events of the evening over and over in my mind. The next morning I woke up early and left the house before Laura could wake up. I needed to clear my head, so I went for a long run. As I ran, I tried to sort through my thoughts and emotions. I had loved Laura deeply, and the pain of her betrayal was almost too much to bear, but I also knew that I needed to figure out what to do next. After my run, I found myself at a small CAF-GC. I ordered a coffee and sat down, my mind still racing. I couldn't stay in the dark any longer. I needed to know the full story. I needed to understand how and why this had happened. So, I decided to talk to Tom. I finished my coffee and headed back home. Laura was in the kitchen making breakfast. She looked up when I walked in, her eyes red from crying. "Alex, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. "Not now," I replied, my voice cold. "I need to talk to Tom first." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes again. I grabbed my keys and headed next door. My heart was pounding as I knocked on Tom's door. He opened it, looking surprised to see me. "Alex, hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "What's up?" "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. "Now." He stepped aside, letting me in. We sat down in his living room, the tension between us palpable. "I know about you and Laura," I said, cutting straight to the point. "I need to know everything." Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Alex, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Laura and I started talking, and we connected on a deeper level. I never meant for it to go this far." "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. 3 months, he admitted. "But it's over now. We ended it last night." "Last night?" I echoed, feeling a fresh wave of betrayal. "So you were still seeing her up until I found out?" He nodded, looking ashamed. "I'm sorry, Alex. I know that doesn't make it better, but I truly am." I stood up, my hands shaking. "You betrayed me, Tom. I trusted you, and you betrayed me." "I know," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't." I left his house feeling a mix of anger and despair. I didn't know what to do or how to move forward. The woman I loved and the man I considered a friend had both betrayed me in the worst possible way. When I got back home, Laura was waiting for me in the living room. She looked up, her eyes filled with guilt and sorrow. "Alex, I know you're hurt, and I know I've betrayed your trust. But I want to make things right. I want to try and save our marriage." I looked at her, my heart aching. "I don't know if we can come back from this, Laura. You've broken my trust, and I don't know if I can ever trust you again." "I understand," she said, her voice breaking. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to try. I love you, Alex, and I want to fight for us." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave the pain behind and start fresh. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to try and rebuild what we had lost. "Okay," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We'll try, but it's going to take time, and it's going to be hard." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her face, "but I'm willing to do whatever it takes." We spent the next few days talking, trying to understand what had led us to this point. Laura admitted that she had felt lonely and disconnected, and that Tom had been there for her in a way that I hadn't. It was painful to hear, but I knew that I had to face the truth if we were going to move forward. We decided to start seeing a counselor, hoping that professional help would guide us through the process of rebuilding our marriage. The sessions were intense and emotional, but they also helped us to communicate more openly and honestly. In the meantime, I tried to avoid Tom as much as possible. It was difficult, living next door to the man who had betrayed me. I felt a mix of anger and sadness every time I saw him. I didn't know if I could ever forgive him, but I knew that I needed to focus on healing myself and my relationship with Laura. One day, Laura suggested that we take a break from everything and go on a trip. "I think we need to get away from all of this," she said. "Just the two of us, somewhere we can focus on each other and try to heal." I agreed, and we started planning a trip to a cabin in the mountains. It felt like a good idea, a chance to escape the daily reminders of what had happened and to try and reconnect. As we packed for the trip, I felt a mix of hope and fear. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild our marriage, but I also knew that it would take a lot of work and a lot of time. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. We arrived at the cabin and settled in, the tranquility of the mountains providing a stark contrast to the turmoil of our emotions. We spent our days hiking and exploring, and our evenings talking by the fire. It was peaceful, but the shadow of Laura's betrayal still loomed over us. One night, as we sat by the fire, Laura took my hand. "Alex, I know I can't undo what I've done, and I know it's going to take a long time for us to heal. But I want you to know that I'm committed to making this work. I love you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." I looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity and the pain. "I want to believe you, Laura, and I'm willing to try, but it's going to take time." "I know," she said, squeezing my hand, "and I'm willing to wait as long as it takes." As we sat there, the fire crackling in the background, I felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time since discovering her betrayal, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The mountain retreat had been a step in the right direction, a chance for Laura and me to reconnect without the constant reminders of her betrayal. But as we returned home, the reality of our situation set in once more. We had made progress, but the path to healing was far from over. Back in our neighborhood, I couldn't avoid Tom forever. The sight of him was a painful reminder of what had happened, and every time I saw him, it stirred up a whirlwind of emotions. Laura and I continued with our counseling sessions, which were helping, but the road ahead was still uncertain. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Laura brought up an idea. "I think we should move," she said, her voice hesitant. I looked at her, surprised. "Move? Why?" "Because staying here next to Tom is a constant reminder of what happened. I think a fresh start somewhere else could help us move forward." I considered her suggestion. The thought of leaving the place where we had built our lives was daunting, but she had a point. Staying next door to Tom was making it harder for me to heal. "Where would we go?" I asked. "We could start by looking at neighborhoods nearby, places where we can still keep our jobs and routines but get a fresh start," she suggested. The idea grew on me, and over the next few weeks we began looking at houses. It was a bittersweet process. On one hand, it felt like we were running away from our problems, but on the other, it felt like a necessary step to rebuild our lives. Eventually, we found a house that we both loved. It was a bit farther from work, but it was in a quiet neighborhood, and it felt like a place where we could start anew. We put in an offer, and within a few weeks it was accepted. The move was a whirlwind, but we both felt a sense of relief as we settled into our new home. The change of scenery helped. It wasn't a magical fix, but it gave us a new environment to focus on rebuilding our relationship. Our counseling sessions continued, and we started setting aside time each week for date nights and activities that we enjoyed together. It felt good to be intentional about our relationship, to prioritize each other in a way that we hadn't in a long time. One evening, as we were unpacking the last of the boxes, Laura found an old photo album. "Look at this," she said, sitting down on the couch and flipping through the pages. I sat next to her and we began reminiscing about the early days of our relationship. The photos brought back memories of happier times, and for a moment it felt like we were back in those days, before everything had fallen apart. "I miss those days," Laura said, her voice tinged with sadness. "I do too," I admitted, "but we can create new memories, better ones." She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I like the sound of that." As the weeks went by, we started to find a new rhythm in our relationship. The trust wasn't fully restored, but we were getting there. We communicated more openly, and I could see that Laura was making a genuine effort to rebuild what had been broken. One day I came home to find Laura in the backyard setting up a picnic. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "I thought we could have a little date night out here," she said. I smiled back, appreciating the gesture. We spent the evening under the stars, talking and laughing, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. But even with the progress we were making, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, I found myself unable to sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the old fears and doubts creeping back in. Laura must have sensed my unease because she turned to me and took my hand. "What's wrong, Alex?" she asked softly. Sometimes I wonder if we'll ever really be okay again," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. She squeezed my hand gently. "I know it's hard, and I know I've hurt you in a way that won't easily heal, but I'm here, and I'm committed to making this work. I love you, Alex." "I love you too," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I just need to know that you're all in, that this isn't just a phase." She looked into my eyes, her expression earnest. "I'm all in, Alex, I promise you that." Her words gave me some comfort, but the road to healing was still long. We continued to take it one day at a time, building trust brick by brick. It was a slow process, but each step forward felt like a small victory. One weekend, we decided to go hiking in the mountains, revisiting the place where we had first started to reconnect. As we walked through the trails, we talked about our hopes and dreams, our fears and insecurities. It was a cathartic experience, and by the time we reached the summit, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Standing at the top of the mountain, looking out at the breathtaking view, Laura took my hand. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said, her voice filled with awe. "We have," I agreed, feeling a sense of accomplishment, "and we're just getting started." We stood there for a while, taking in the beauty of the moment. It felt symbolic, like we were reaching a new peak in our relationship, a place where we could see the future more clearly. As we made our way back down the mountain, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't that the pain of the past had disappeared, but it had become more manageable, more bearable. We returned home, tired but happy, and that night, as we lay in bed, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead was still long, but we were walking it together, and that made all the difference. The next morning I woke up to find Laura already up, making breakfast. I walked into the kitchen and wrapped my arms around her from behind. "Good morning," I said, kissing her on the cheek. "Good morning," she replied, smiling. "I was thinking we could go check out that new park today, have a picnic." "Sounds perfect," I said, feeling a warmth in my chest. It was moments like these that made all the hard work worth it. We spent the day at the park, enjoying each other's company and the beautiful weather. It felt like we were building new memories, creating a new foundation for our relationship. As we sat on the blanket, eating our lunch, Laura looked at me with a serious expression. "Alex, I want you to know that I'm committed to this, to us. I know I've hurt you, and I know it will take time to heal, but I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I took her hand, feeling a surge of emotion. "I believe you, Laura, and I'm willing to keep trying as long as it takes." We sat there, holding hands, and for the first time in a long time I felt a sense of hope and optimism about the future. The journey wasn't over, but we were moving forward, together. The move had given us a new beginning, but the road to rebuilding our marriage was still fraught with challenges. Trust, once shattered, takes time and effort to mend. Laura and I were committed to the process, attending counseling sessions and working on our communication. There were moments of progress, but there were also setbacks. One particularly challenging day, I came home to find Laura sitting at the dining table looking through old photo albums. She glanced up when she saw me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. "Do you ever miss the old days?" she asked. I sat down next to her, looking at the photos spread out on the table. They were from happier times, DJ vacations, family gatherings, and moments of joy. "Of course I do," I replied, "but we can't live in the past. We have to focus on building a better future." Laura nodded, wiping away a tear. "I know. It's just hard sometimes. I wish we could go back and do things differently." "We can't change the past," I said gently, "but we can learn from it and make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes." She smiled weakly. "You're right, and I want to do everything I can to make things right between us." Our efforts to rebuild our marriage continued, but there were still moments when the pain of her betrayal resurfaced. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Laura asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Alex, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" Her question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Forgiveness is a process," I said finally. "It's not something that happens overnight, but I'm working on it. Every day, I'm working on it." Laura looked relieved, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. "I just want you to know that I'm truly sorry for what I did, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your forgiveness." "I know you are," I replied, taking her hand, "and I'm willing to keep trying. As long as we're both committed to this, we can make it work." We continued to navigate the ups and downs of our relationship, finding solace in the small moments of progress. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the beach, hoping that a change of scenery would help us reconnect. As we walked along the shoreline hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing for a long time. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the salty breeze, and the warmth of the sun all combined to create a moment of tranquility. We found a spot on the sand and set up our beach chairs. Laura leaned back, closing her eyes and soaking in the sun. "This is nice," she said softly. "It feels good to just relax and be together." I nodded, feeling the same sense of calm. "It does. We should do this more often." We spent the day at the beach, talking, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. It was a reminder of why we had fallen in love in the first place. By the time we returned to our beach house, I felt more hopeful about our future than I had in a long time. That night, as we lay in bed, Laura turned to me. "Alex, thank you for giving us a second chance. I know it hasn't been easy, but I'm grateful that you're willing to work through this with me." "I love you, Laura," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "And I'm committed to making this work. We're in this together." We fell asleep holding each other, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. The journey was far from over, but we were making progress, one step at a time. Back home, we continued to focus on our relationship. We started new traditions, like cooking dinner together on Friday nights and taking long walks on Sunday mornings. These small rituals helped to rebuild the bond that had been damaged. One evening, as we were preparing dinner, Laura brought up a topic that had been weighing on her mind. "Alex, I've been thinking a lot about the future. I want to make sure we're on the same page about what we want." I looked at her, sensing the seriousness of her tone. "What do you mean?" I mean, where do we see ourselves in 5 or 10 years? What do we want our lives to look like? She explained. It was a valid question, one that we had avoided discussing since her affair came to light. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I want us to be happy, to have a strong, healthy relationship. I want to travel more, create new memories together, and maybe even start a family. Laura's eyes lit up at the mention of starting a family. I've been thinking about that too. I want to build a future with you, Alex. I want to have kids and create a life that we're both proud of. Her words filled me with a sense of hope and possibility. I want that too, I said, smiling, and I believe we can get there, one step at a time. The conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. It wasn't just about healing from the past. It was about building a future together. We started making plans, setting goals, and working towards a shared vision of our life. We also continued our counseling sessions, which provided us with the tools to navigate the challenges that came our way. Our therapist suggested that we write letters to each other, expressing our feelings and thoughts in a way that we might not be able to do in person. Writing the letter was a cathartic experience for me. I poured out my heart, expressing my pain, my fears, and my hopes for the future. When I handed the letter to Laura, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. A few days later, Laura gave me her letter. I read it in our living room, tears streaming down my face as I absorbed her words. She apologized for her actions, acknowledged the hurt she had caused, and expressed her deep love and commitment to our relationship. Reading her letter, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We were both committed to making this work, and that was what mattered most. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but we were walking it together. One weekend, we decided to host a small gathering at our new home, inviting some friends and family. It was a chance to celebrate our progress and the new chapter of our lives. As we mingled with our guests, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. At one point, Laura pulled me aside. "Alex, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for giving us another chance, for believing in us." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest. "I believe in us, Laura, and I'm excited about the future we're building together." As the evening drew to a close and our guests began to leave, Laura and I stood in our backyard, looking out at the stars. "We've come a long way," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We have," I agreed, taking her hand, "and we're just getting started." We stood there for a while, holding hands and looking up at the night sky. It felt symbolic, like we were looking forward to a future filled with possibilities. The journey wasn't over, but we were making progress, one step at a time. As the months went by, our relationship continued to strengthen. We faced challenges and setbacks, but we tackled them together with open communication and a commitment to each other. The wounds of the past were healing, and in their place a stronger bond was forming. One day, as we were walking through a park, Laura turned to me with a smile. "Alex, I have a surprise for you." I raised an eyebrow, curious. "Oh? What is it?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. "Open it," she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. I took the box and opened it to find a pair of baby booties. My heart skipped a beat as I looked up at her, realization dawning on me. "Laura, are you—" She nodded, tears of joy in her eyes. "Yes, Alex. We're going to have a baby." I pulled her into a tight embrace, overwhelmed with happiness. "This is amazing," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I can't believe it." "We're going to be parents," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "I can't wait to start this new chapter with you." The news of Laura's pregnancy brought a new sense of purpose and joy to our lives. We spent the next few months preparing for the arrival of our baby, attending prenatal classes, setting up the nursery, and dreaming about the future. As the due date approached, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. The journey we had been on had been difficult, but it had brought us closer together, and now we were about to embark on a new adventure as parents. One evening, as we sat in the nursery putting the finishing touches on the room, Laura took my hand. "Alex, I want you to know how much I love you. You've been my rock through all of this, and I can't imagine going through this journey with anyone else." I love you too, Laura, I said, feeling a surge of emotion. And I can't wait to start this new chapter with you. The night our baby was born was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. As I held our newborn daughter in my arms, I felt a profound sense of love and gratitude. The journey we had been on had led us to this moment, and it was all worth it. As Laura and I looked down at our baby, we knew that the road ahead would still have its challenges. But we were ready to face them together as a family. The past had shaped us, but it didn't define us. What mattered most was the love we shared and the future we were building together. The journey was far from over, but with each step forward, we were creating a life filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. And as we looked into our daughter's eyes, we knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be. Life with a newborn brought its own set of challenges and joys. Our daughter, Lily, became the center of our world. The sleepless nights, the endless diaper changes, and the overwhelming love we felt for her bonded Laura and me in a way nothing else could. The work we had done to rebuild our relationship provided a strong foundation for this new chapter in our lives. Laura's commitment to our family was evident in everything she did. She threw herself into motherhood with a passion and dedication that made me fall in love with her all over again. Watching her care for Lily, seeing the tenderness in her eyes and the joy on her face, made me realize how much she had grown. The mistakes of the past seemed to fade as we focused on the present and the future. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Laura and I sat on the couch, exhausted but happy. "I can't believe how much our lives have changed," she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I know," I replied, wrapping my arm around her, "but it's a good change. Lily has brought so much joy into our lives." Laura smiled, a contented look on her face. "She has, and I feel like we're stronger than ever. We've been through so much, but we've come out the other side." "We have," I agreed, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "And I wouldn't change a thing. Everything we've been through has led us to this moment." As the weeks turned into months, we settled into our roles as parents. We found a new rhythm, balancing work, parenthood, and our relationship. It wasn't always easy, but we faced each challenge together, supporting each other every step of the way. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take Lily to the park. It was a beautiful day, and the fresh air and sunshine were a welcome change from the routine of daily life. As we walked through the park, pushing Lily in her stroller, we talked about our hopes and dreams for the future. "I've been thinking about going back to school," Laura said, surprising me. "I want to finish my degree and maybe start a new career." "That's a great idea," I said, genuinely excited for her. "What do you want to study?" "I've always been interested in psychology," she replied. "I think I'd like to become a counselor, help others the way our therapist helped us." I smiled, proud of her for wanting to pursue her dreams. "I think you'd be amazing at that, and I'll support you every step of the way." Laura looked at me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Alex. Your support means everything to me." As we continued our walk, I thought about how far we had come. The journey to rebuild our marriage had been difficult, but it had also made us stronger. We had faced our demons, confronted our pain, and emerged on the other side with a deeper understanding of each other and a renewed sense of commitment. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Laura and I sat down to talk about her plans for going back to school. "I think we can make this work," she said, looking at me with determination. "I'll take classes part-time, and we can adjust our schedules to make sure one of us is always with Lily." "That sounds like a good plan," I agreed. "And I'll do whatever I can to support you." Laura smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "I can't wait to get started. This feels like the right step for me." As she began her classes, I took on more responsibilities at home to support her. It was a challenging adjustment, but seeing Laura's enthusiasm and passion for her studies made it all worthwhile. We found a new balance, one that allowed us to grow both as individuals and as a couple. One evening, as Laura was studying at the kitchen table, I sat down next to her. "You know, I'm really proud of you," I said, watching her work. She looked up, a smile spreading across her face. "Thank you, Alex. That means a lot to me." "You're doing great," I continued, "and I know that whatever you set your mind to, you'll achieve." Laura reached out and took my hand. "I couldn't do this without your support. You've been my rock through everything." "We're a team," I said, squeezing her hand, "and we'll always be here for each other." As the months went by, Laura excelled in her studies, and I found joy in supporting her and caring for Lily. Our life felt full and rich, with each day bringing new challenges and new joys. The past, while never forgotten, became a distant memory as we focused on building a bright future. One weekend, we decided to take a family trip to the mountains, revisiting the place where we had first started to heal our relationship. It felt symbolic, a way to honor how far we had come and to celebrate the new chapter we were creating. As we hiked through the trails, carrying Lily in a baby carrier, we talked about our future plans. "I want to keep traveling, exploring new places," Laura said. "I want Lily to grow up with a sense of adventure and curiosity." "I love that idea," I replied, "and I want to make sure we always make time for each other, no matter how busy life gets." "Agreed," Laura said, smiling. "Our relationship is the foundation for everything else. We have to keep nurturing it." We reached a beautiful overlook, the same spot where we had stood months earlier, looking out at the breathtaking view. As we stood there, holding hands and gazing at the horizon, I felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. "We've come a long way," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "We have," Laura agreed, her eyes sparkling with happiness, "and I can't wait to see where life takes us next." As we made our way back down the mountain, I felt a renewed sense of hope and excitement for the future. The journey we had been on had brought us closer together, and it had shown us the strength of our love and commitment. We had faced our darkest moments and emerged stronger, ready to take on whatever challenges life might bring. Back home, we continued to build our life together, one day at a time. There were still moments of doubt and insecurity, but they were fewer and farther between. Our love for each other and our commitment to our family kept us moving forward, always striving to create a better future. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Laura turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Alex, do you ever think about how different our lives would be if we hadn't gone through all of this?" I considered her question, thinking back to the difficult journey we had been on. "I do," I admitted. "But I also think that everything we've been through has made us who we are today. It's made our love stronger and our bond deeper." Laura nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "I agree, and I wouldn't change a thing. We're stronger because of what we've been through." "We are," I said, feeling a sense of pride and gratitude. "And I know that no matter what comes our way, we'll face it together." As we sat there watching the sky change colors, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our journey wasn't over, but we were on the right path. We had built a life filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities, and I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together. The months continued to pass, and our lives settled into a comfortable routine. Laura was excelling in her studies, and I was finding fulfillment in my work and in caring for Lily. Our family was thriving, and the bond between Laura and me grew stronger each day. The wounds of the past were healing, and the trust between us was being rebuilt, brick by brick. One evening after a particularly busy day, Laura and I decided to unwind by watching a movie. As we cuddled on the couch, I felt a sense of peace that had been absent for so long. It was moments like these that reminded me of why we had fought so hard to save our marriage. Halfway through the movie, Laura turned to me, a serious expression on her face. "Alex, there's something I need to tell you." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about Tom," she said, her voice trembling. "I saw him today and he asked if we could talk." A mix of anger and fear surged through me. "What did he want?" I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "He wanted to apologize," Laura said, her eyes filling with tears. "He said he regretted everything that happened and wanted to make amends." I took a deep breath, trying to process what she was saying. "And what did you say?" I told him that I forgave him, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But I also told him that we needed to move on with our lives and that it was best if we kept our distance. Her words filled me with a mix of relief and uncertainty. Do you think we can really move on from this? I asked, my voice filled with doubt. I believe we can, she said, taking my hand. We've come so far, Alex. We've rebuilt our lives and our relationship. But it's up to us to keep moving forward. I nodded, feeling a sense of resolution. You're right. We've come too far to let anything hold us back now. The conversation with Tom had brought closure to a painful chapter in our lives. It was a reminder that while we couldn't change the past, we had the power to shape our future, and that future was filled with promise and possibility. As the months went by, we continued to focus on our family and our dreams. Laura graduated with honors, and I was there, cheering her on, feeling an immense sense of pride. Her dedication and hard work had paid off, and she was ready to embark on a new career as a counselor. One evening, as we celebrated her graduation with a small gathering of friends and family, Laura pulled me aside. Alex, there's something I've been thinking about, she said, her eyes filled with excitement. What is it? I asked, curious. I want to open my own counseling practice, she said, her voice filled with determination. I want to help others the way we've been helped. Her words filled me with admiration. I think that's a wonderful idea, I said, smiling, and I'll support you every step of the way. With my encouragement, Laura began the process of setting up her own practice. It was a challenging endeavor, but her passion and commitment were unwavering. Watching her pursue her dreams was inspiring, and it strengthened my own resolve to be the best husband and father I could be. As Laura's practice grew, so did our family. We welcomed a second child, a beautiful baby boy named Ethan. The joy and love that filled our home were indescribable. Our family was complete, and the bond between us was stronger than ever. One sunny afternoon, as we played in the backyard with Lily and Ethan, Laura looked at me with a smile. We've come a long way, haven't we? She said, her voice filled with emotion. We have, I replied, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. And I'm so proud of us, of everything we've built together. She took my hand, her eyes shining with love. I couldn't have done it without you, Alex. You've been my rock through everything. And you've been mine, I said, pulling her into a tight embrace. I love you, Laura. I love you too, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. As we stood there holding each other, watching our children play, I felt a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. The journey we had been on had been difficult, but it had brought us closer together and made us stronger. We had faced our darkest moments and emerged on the other side, ready to embrace the future. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I knew that as long as we faced it together, we could overcome any obstacle. Our love had been tested and had proven to be resilient and enduring, and that love would guide us through whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over our backyard, Laura and I sat down on the porch, watching our children with a sense of wonder and gratitude. This is what it's all about, I said, taking her hand. This is our life, our family, our love. Yes, it is, Laura agreed, her eyes filled with tears of joy, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. As we sat there, I realized that the journey we had been on had been worth every moment of pain and struggle. It had brought us to this place of peace and happiness, and it had made us the family we were meant to be. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, with love, strength, and an unbreakable bond. The years passed, and our lives continued to flourish. Laura's counseling practice thrived, helping countless individuals and families navigate their own challenges. I advanced in my career, finding fulfillment in both my work and my role as a father. Our children, Lily and Ethan, grew up in a home filled with love, laughter, and the unwavering support of their parents. We faced our share of challenges, as all families do, but we met each one with the resilience and strength we had built together. The scars from the past had faded, leaving behind a deep understanding and appreciation for each other. Our relationship was stronger than ever, grounded in the lessons we had learned and the love we had nurtured. One crisp autumn day, we decided to take a family trip to the mountains, returning once more to the place that had become a symbol of our journey. As we hiked the familiar trails, now with Lily and Ethan leading the way, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. We reached the same overlook where Laura and I had stood years before, looking out at the breathtaking view. This time we were joined by our children who marveled at the beauty of the landscape. "It's so beautiful up here," Lily said, her eyes wide with wonder. "It is," Laura agreed, wrapping an arm around my waist. "This place holds a lot of special memories for us." Ethan looked up at us, curiosity in his eyes. "Tell us about it," he said, his voice eager. Laura and I exchanged a smile, and we began to share our story with them, DGG, the story of how we had overcome adversity, rebuilt our relationship, and created a life filled with love and hope. As we talked, I felt a sense of pride and gratitude for the journey we had been on and the family we had become. That evening, as we sat around a campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories, I looked at Laura, feeling a profound sense of contentment. "We've built something beautiful," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "We have," she replied, her eyes shining with love, "and it's only going to get better." As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled overhead, I felt a deep sense of peace. Our journey had been long and difficult, but it had led us to a place of happiness and fulfillment. The love we shared had withstood the test of time, growing stronger with each passing year. We returned home with our hearts full and our spirits renewed. Life continued its steady rhythm, and we embraced each moment with gratitude and joy. We watched our children grow, celebrating their achievements and guiding them through their own challenges. Our home was a place of warmth and laughter, a testament to the strength of our family. One evening, as Laura and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, she took my hand. "Alex, do you ever think about the future? About where we'll be in 10 or 20 years?" "I do," I said, smiling at her, "and I see us growing old together, watching our children build their own lives and continuing to support each other through whatever comes our way." She squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with tears. "I love you, Alex, more than words can ever express." "I love you too, Laura," I replied, feeling a surge of emotion. "And I'm grateful for every moment we've shared, the good and the bad. It's all part of our journey." As we sat there, looking out at the horizon, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more joys, and more moments of growth. But I also knew that we would face it all together, with the love and strength that had carried us through the darkest times. Our story was one of resilience, of overcoming adversity, and of building a life filled with love and hope. And as we looked to the future, we did so with the knowledge that we had built something truly special, something that would endure for a lifetime and beyond. With Laura by my side, I knew that anything was possible. Our love had been tested and had emerged stronger, and it would continue to guide us through whatever lay ahead. The journey of rebuilding our marriage had been one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of my life, and it had led us to a place of profound happiness and fulfillment. As the sun set on that beautiful evening, casting a golden glow over our home, I felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. The future was bright, and with Laura, Lily, and Ethan by my side, I knew that we would continue to build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. The journey was ongoing, but we were ready to face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart.